Hi there, and a warm welcome from Together Church, and this is a little video just to accompany our John series. So hopefully you should have got your I and Them John workbook that looks like this, and this is what we'll be using as we go through the series. Right, let's go ahead and have a look inside. Okay, so there's a few pages of introduction there, and then over on page 11, there's a grid just to show you what's happening on the Sunday evening. So that's quite self-explanatory. This series is going to run right up until Easter. Then on Wednesday evenings, basically the ones here are the marking up sessions at the church. And then these group prayer sessions are your TENS meeting at home group prayer times. Okay, they're both at 7:30. So on these occasions, we'll be at the church at 7:30. And the other occasions, you'll be at the homes of your TENS leaders, and you should be hearing about that in due course if you haven't already. Right, let's go ahead and turn over. This is page 13. It's a little explanation about marking up. Okay, it's fairly self-explanatory, and the purpose of doing this marking up in the text is so that we can really kind of spend time enjoying exactly what is there. Often when we're reading, we just glance over the details. So the purpose of actually writing these symbols above the words is to help us actually kind of dig in and get some more out of what is there. Okay, it helps if you've got a multicolored pen and you can do, your own kind of marking up system to some extent. But there's a kind of guide here so that you can have a start of a 10. Okay, so we've got time references here. So, if it says in the beginning or the 6th hour, then we've put a little clock up there. Place references would be double underlined, and obviously you could use a different colour. And then person references, we're just going to put a little box around them. Okay, and then there's a lot of God references in John. Okay, so what we're trying to do is to sort them into whether they are Father, Son, or Spirit references. Okay, so often he'll say God, but often the text will say something like he or him, the Son of Man used, word, Spirit. So what we're going to do is write this little triangle, and then we'll do an F for Father, a J for Jesus, and an S for Spirit there. Okay, so as we're going through the text, we're just going to sort out which of the Trinity we're talking about when we're talking about the God references. Now, sometimes it's really difficult and we can't actually figure it out, so we've just got a kind of generic one, which is a triangle with a little G. Okay, now John does a lot of repeating of words, so what we're going to do is just circle, and I'd just encourage you to use a different colour, just circle the repeated words, and then you can see them. And then we've got some theme words. And the theme words, there's a list of these provided at the start of each chapter. Okay, so probably the easiest thing is if we just get on and do some. All right, so let's turn over. This is, where are we? Page 17. This is the start of week 1, and the Word became flesh. Now you'll see that there's a list of keywords down here, and they've each got their kind of little doodle symbol. Okay, so we've got word as a little speech bubble and life as a little heart blip. You've got the little eyes for witness and so on. Okay, now you don't have to use these particular ones, but what I would say is just make it consistent all the way through the book, and that will really help you pick these keywords out. Okay, so for each passage, there's a set of keywords, and you'll notice that in the text, the keywords are set in bold there. Right? Any other words that we really want to look at are set out in bold. So as we turn over, what you'll find with this particular study is that on this page, the left-hand side is all got imagery from Genesis, and then the right-hand side has got imagery from Exodus. And the rather cool thing is that this bit here relates to this bit here relates to this, and this bit here relates to this. And this is one of the beautiful ways that John has constructed this book. And it's really fun to kind of investigate what the references are, and you can do that in your own study time. Okay, so then we've just got a last bit on the other side of the page. Okay, well, there is a map here, and you'll find that John's got lots of references to places. So we've put a map in there just so you can have a look, and there is even a little key of how far everything is, and these dotted lines are where they walked from one place to another. Okay, so it's quite fun to see exactly where all these events took place. All right, so let's go ahead and start marking up some of the text. Okay, so I've decided I'm going to use blue for my time references. Okay, so here it is, in the beginning. So I'm going to put the little clock there. Was the word. Right, so the word, I'm going to use red, I think, for my God. Right, so this is, the word is referencing Jesus here. Okay, so this is the symbol for God, the triangle. And then I'm going to put a little J there for Jesus. Okay, so then I'm going over to here, and it's going to be word again. So I'm going to put a little J for Jesus. Was with God. Right, so this God, so Jesus was with God. Okay, so I'm going to put that there as Father. Okay. Right, so in the beginning was the Word, that was Jesus, and Jesus was with the Father. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and the Word, okay, so that's Jesus again, isn't it? Was God. Okay, so he was God. So he wasn't the Father, was he? Because they're kind of distinct. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to say that that is the kind of generic God. Okay, so let's do that again. So in the beginning was Jesus, and Jesus was with the Father, and Jesus was God. Okay, so he was God in terms of his unity with the Father, Spirit, and Son being one. Okay, but he was distinct in himself, being Jesus, separate to the Father. Okay, and then we just look at verse 2, and it says, he was in the beginning, right? So there's a time reference again, so I'm going to put that in as a time reference, with God. Right, he was in the, and he, we've forgotten about that. So he, who's he talking about here? He was in the beginning. Well, with the flow of the text, I'm going to say that that's Jesus. Okay, so Jesus was in the beginning with God, and it makes sense if that's the Father, doesn't it? Right, so as we just look over that little section again, what I'm then going to do is I'm going to change to green, and I'm going to put my repeating words. So I've noticed that beginning shows up twice, so I'm going to circle that like that. Okay, and this, in terms of referencing Jesus to being the Word, that shows up 3 times, doesn't it? There. Okay, so now I just have a look over it again, and I can say, right, so in the beginning, so that's kind of way back, isn't it? Before even the world was created, so that's talking about in eternity, was the Word, and that's John's clever reference for Jesus. Okay, so before eternity, we could say, was Jesus, and Jesus was with the Father, and Jesus was God. Then it goes on, Jesus was in the beginning, way back in eternity, he was with the Father. Right, so there we are, that's that first little section done. All right, so we've done that little first bit, verses 1 and 2. And then as we turn over the page and we start having a look at this, we see that it says all things were made through him. All right, so what we've got to do is then turn back and make sure that we're definitely sure about who the he is. So who do we think? Well, I'm going to go with Jesus because it says he was in the beginning with God. So it kind of figures that this next thought in verse 3, when he says him, he's referring to Jesus. Okay. All right, so we're going to put a little triangle above him because we said that that was Jesus. Okay, so all things were made through him, and without him, well, it makes sense to keep with the flow, doesn't it? Without him was not anything made that was made. Right, there's a lot of mades here, aren't there? So we're going to get our green and we're just going to do made. Without him was not anything made that was made. Okay, so in him was life. Right, what was our symbol for life? Oh yeah, the little heart blip, wasn't it? I don't know what they're called. In him was life. Oh, in him. Right, so him, we're talking about Jesus still, aren't we? So in Jesus was life, and the life, there it is again, was the light, and that's our little symbol like that, isn't it? The light was the life was the light of men. Okay, so I'm going to do a little box there to signify the men. The light, that's repeated word again, so we're going to do our little light symbol, shines in the darkness. Alright, there's our darkness, and the darkness, it's repetition of darkness, has not overcome it. Okay, so I'm going to get my green. So what repeated words did we have? In him was life, so life, do that. And then light as well was repeated, wasn't it? So there we go. Light shines in the darkness has not overcome it. Okay, so just while we're having a little look at these verses 3, 4 and 5, I wonder what your mind is taken to in reference to the rest of the Bible. I think it's quite striking, isn't it, that this section is taking us back to when the light first shone in the darkness, isn't it? And actually the previous little bit about God being the Word, that Jesus being the Word, if we think about Genesis 1, we think about how God's just said the word, didn't he? And all this creation came about. You know, he said the word and there was all sorts of things created. You know, all sorts of things were made because of God's word just spoken into that darkness. So there's some clear references, aren't there, to Genesis 1 in this. So what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to write Genesis 1 in the margin here. Okay, just to remind myself to go back and have a look at that. Okay, and just before we move on from this, I've just had another little glance over it, and I've realised that where it says it, I was wondering, what is the it? Well, of course it's the light, isn't it? So I'm going to put my symbol for light just above the it, because then it says the light shines in the darkness and the darkness has not overcome it, meaning the light. The darkness has not overcome the light. Okay, it's the light that shines in the darkness. Okay, so then what I can actually do is I can just link that up with light there. So I can say that, yeah, there's light there, and there as well. Okay, so yeah, I'm happy with this. There's clear reference to Genesis 1, and so I'm also going to just write creation there. Okay, so Genesis 1 and creation. Right, let's move on to the next bit. Right, so let's start in verse 6. There was a man, there's reference to person there. There was a man sent from God. Oh, now, God. Which one is it going to be? Let's think about this. A man sent from God. Well, this is talking about John the Baptist, isn't it? Whose name was John. So I'm gonna wimp out and I'm gonna say just the generic God for the moment, but it might change. Okay, so there was a man sent from God whose name was John. Right, person reference there. Okay, he came as a witness. Right, so witness was our two beady eyes, wasn't it? So let's put that there. He came as a witness, to bear witness, so that's the same symbol, to bear witness about the light. Right, so we've got this light again, so let's do the symbol for light. That all might believe. Now the believe symbol is two beady eyes, and and it's complete with the little symbols here. Now you can start to see that, does believe mean a combination of seeing and having light about it? Oh, maybe. Okay, so that all might believe through him. Oh, now who's the him? Right, so, okay, let's start at the sentence. So there was a man sent from God whose name was John. He, so this must be John, mustn't it? So I'm going to write JB, John the Baptist. So he came as a witness to bear witness about the light. And I'm thinking, now the light is also talking about Jesus, isn't it? So I'm going to put a little symbol of Jesus there. That all might believe through him. So the him is that's John the Baptist. Is that what we're saying? He was not the light. Okay, so JB was not the light, but came to bear witness. That's that, bear witness again. It's almost like a kind of courtroom type scenario, isn't it? This bearing witness. Came to bear witness about the light. Okay, let's put our light symbol there. Right, now let's see about the repeated words. Okay, so there was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to bear witness about the light. And light is repeated, isn't it? That all might believe through him. He was not the light, but came to bear witness about the light. Brilliant. Okay, so if we just have a little look at that section, what do we think about that? Okay, so when we think about this, I think if you look at this paragraph here has been kind of taking us right back to before the dawn of time, isn't it? And then this is kind of plonking us right into Palestine in the 1st century, isn't it? Okay, so it's quite a change of tack for this little 3 verses. So I'm going to put here witness in the paragraph. Witness. I'm going to put JB, John the Baptist. Okay, so as we have a little look over what we've just done, I'm not going to go on and do the next bit because I want you to have a go. And so just as we recap, okay, we've got this first little bit, haven't we, which is really taking us right back to the very beginning and thinking about the Trinity. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit about eternity. And what shall I put? The beginning. Let's put. Okay, so that's just little prompts there. So we've got that, the eternity in the beginning, and then this bit here really starts kind of channeling our thoughts towards creation, doesn't it? And then this really changes tack to talking about the witness of the one who's long promised. Okay, so then this paragraph, what would you say that this, after you've marked it up, so if you go through it now and mark it up, and then start to think, right, what was it that this is really talking about? And then once we've marked up the other side as well, okay, so go ahead and mark up this bit, and then this bit, and this bit. And then what I'd like you to do is to just think back to the thing that we said. So remember that this side here is all about Genesis, and this side here is all got imagery about Exodus. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is to have a little think about how these relate together. So they're kind of parallel together this way, but they're also in these 2 separate columns of Genesis and Exodus. Okay, and then finally, over the other page, we've got this little synopsis, and that will be the end of this study. Okay, now the good thing is that you can do this on your own. It's a nice little devotion study. You can do this, in your families or as couples or whoever you're with. And what it does is it helps you to really look at the text and to dwell in it. And then when it comes to Sunday, when the preach happens, then we'll be kind of hitting the ground running. So that's the idea of doing it like this. Okay, so as we think about the next study, so you've got this little map here on page 22, just to refer to with all the different studies. Then on week 2, so this week we haven't got a marking up week in the church, but there's nothing to stop you actually going through and marking up the text yourself. So you've got the slightly different keywords here. You're also continuing to want to mark up the people involved, any time references or place references. So just in exactly the same way you can do that. And then on the weeks where we haven't got a study on the Wednesday, we've got just these points to ponder at the end of those weeks. Okay, so you can do this individually or with other people, and they're just some things to pull out from the text. And if you've done the marking up, you'll find that that's much easier to have a look at the points to ponder if you've done the marking up. Okay, and then in the same way, we'll be having done all of that before the Sunday, so when we get to listen to the preach, we'll have, we can hit the ground running. Okay, and then it goes on to the next week. So the odd weeks are the ones that we're doing the marking up, and the even weeks are the ones where you've got the points to ponder. Okay, if you've got any questions, then don't hesitate to get in touch. Myself or Pete or anyone else, any of the leaders, would be happy to help you through this. Great, well, that's just about it from me. Don't forget, if you haven't got your copy of the John Workbook, then do send us an email and we'll get one in the post. That's office@togetherchurch.co.uk. So ping us an email and we'll get one sent to you. And don't forget, you can catch up on any of our messages over on YouTube at our Together Church YouTube channel. Okay, well, I'd really encourage you to get stuck into this. John is the most beautiful book, and this will do really good stuff for your soul. I'm so excited that we're all doing it together. Okay, well, I'll see you next time. Bye.